76-year-old Wilma Carter has lived through the kind of history that many only read about in textbooks. With a heart that bears the metal of a wartime hero and wrinkles etched by time and experience, beloved and respected by those who truly know her story. Underneath the sunlit sky, where children laugh and play, Wilma finds herself at the mercy of a group of rowdy, disaffected youths. They call themselves the Black Ravens, a gang that thrives in shadows, laughing loudly as they target the elderly, preying on their vulnerability. The town that once embraced her now feels like a cage filled with the echoes of taunts and ridicule, making it a daily battle for her dignity. Join Wilma on her journey as she challenges the very essence of bullying and stands up for not only herself, but for every voice that has been silenced by fear. Before we continue with the story, let us know where you're listening to this story from, and kindly leave a like on the video. The first rays of dawn crept through the lace curtains of Wilma's modest home, bathing her kitchen in a warm, golden glow. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of her garden, where morning glories climbed eagerly towards the sun. It was early October, and the crisp air hinted at the approach of winter, but also carried the promise of vibrant fall colors. Wilma savored these mornings, where the birds chirped merrily outside her window, unperturbed by the troubles of the world. As she sat down at her small dining table, memories flooded her mind. Of her days as a young woman in the army during World War II, of camaraderie forged in the heat of battle, and the deep friendships that had lasted a lifetime. Ethel, Rose, and Paul. They would often sit across from her, sharing stories of their lives after the war, laughter mingling with bittersweet memories. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet the bonds they formed remained strong, etched into her heart. Today, however, felt different. The quiet town of Maplewood had recently been shaken by the arrival of the Black Ravens. Wilma had noticed their presence creeping into local hangouts, their laughter tinged with malice, their eyes filled with mischief. They swaggered through the streets, unafraid, emboldened by the absence of authority and the whispers that accompanied their antics. This morning, as she took her first sip of coffee, she shuddered at the recent memory of her trips to the grocery store where the gang had begun to loiter. They mocked the elderly, calling them dinosaur fossils, and laughed when she had simply tried to walk past them. The days of jovial exchanges with the neighborhood children had been replaced with a shadow where no one dared to speak up against the boys. Brushing her white hair neatly into a bun, she donned her favorite green cardigan, one that had seen countless seasons and battles of its own. With every thread, it wrapped around her like the love she had built over the years within her community. But today, that cardigan felt like a shroud as her heart raced with lingering anxiousness. She resolved to take a different route to the park, a move that felt like surrender but ensured her safety. Yet the urge to confront the gang, to rekindle the spirit of her youth, swelled within her. Her mind wandered back to her days training recruits in the army, how simple discipline and courage could forge strength in the face of adversity. She took her daily walk, deliberately timing her steps to avoid the peak hours when the gang usually gathered. The paths through Maplewood were picturesque, lined with trees whose leaves had just begun to blush in vibrant reds and golds. The air was brisk. It held the kind of stillness that made conversations between neighbors a sacred bond. Yet every flit of movement, every sound, made her pulse race. As she walked, she noticed a small group of neighborhood children playing a game of tag, their innocent laughter ringing out like a bell. For a moment, her heart lightened with joy, and she waved. Her warm smile met with a chorus of friendly hellos. But as she turned the corner toward the park, her joy was punctured by a familiar sound. Laughter that felt sharp and cutting. There they were, the Black Ravens, looming near the park bench, their eyes glimmering with mischief. The leader, a tall boy with shaggy hair and a permanent sneer, pointed at her and exclaimed, "Look, it's Grandma Wilma. Shouldn't you be knitting instead of walking in the hood?" The laughter surged like a wave, a cacophony of mockery that fed off her discomfort. Wilma felt the heat rise to her cheeks, her heart pounding like a war drum. Memories of her youth flooded her thoughts, a time when she faced tanks and guns alongside her brave comrades, all while keeping her chin held high. Yet here, with only words, she felt the weight of their scorn pressing against her. "Leave me alone," she called out, trying to inject strength into her voice, but it wavered like the autumn leaves trembling in the wind. They merely laughed harder, invigorated by her response. As she turned to flee, her mind raced. Was this truly how the world had turned? How could she allow her memories to be punctured by such cruelty? There was a deeper hurt. It wasn't just about her. It was the concept of respect, the bonds formed through sacrifice, the very fabric of the community that now seemed to be unraveling. He looked at his feet. In that moment of despair, an idea ignited like a flickering candle in a dark room. She recalled the voices of her military friends, their motto, "No one fights alone." Perhaps it was time not just to endure her battles silently, but to rally those around her. Her phone call could be the first ripple in the water, one that could summon the tides of change. Internal monitoring, and everyone else in the ship, gathering her composure, she headed home, determination replacing fear. This wasn't just about standing against the Black Ravens. It was about reclaiming her life, her community. That evening, sitting in her kitchen, with the sun setting behind the trees, she reached for the rotary phone. As her finger moved to dial, the possibilities unfurled like the first blooms of spring. It was time to make that call. The evening air was cool outside, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the oak tree in Wilma's yard, as she contemplated her next move. Each tick of the clock echoed in her ears, a steady reminder of the passing time and the importance of her resolve. Resolutely, she lifted the receiver of the vintage rotary phone. It felt heavy in her hands, as if it was laden with the history of all those who had used it before her. Only instantly she lifted the phone to her ear. Spirits surged with courage as she turned the dial. The number she was calling belonged to Frank Thompson, the former mayor of Maplewood and a retired veteran. Frank had not only served in the same unit as Wilma during the war, but he had also become a cornerstone of the community. They had fought side by side, sharing camaraderie and the burdens of their experiences. His voice, she hoped, would bring the collective strength of the past into her fight today. As the phone rang, each beep sent shivers of anticipation down her spine. Wilma remembered Frank as a sturdy man, someone who exuded calmness amidst chaos. When he answered, his voice was warm and welcoming, and it brought her a sense of familiarity that soothed her nerves. "Wilma, it's good to hear from you," he greeted affectionately. "What's on your mind?" Taking a deep breath, Wilma voiced her concerns. "Frank, I need your help. There's a gang of youths, calling themselves the Black Ravens, causing distress in our community," she explained, her voice unwavering. "They've been bullying the elderly, and I can't stand by any longer." Silence lingered for a moment before Frank responded, his tone serious. "I've seen and heard about them. They've been a menace lately. But Wilma, what do you think we can do?" Oh, summoning her courage, she spoke from her heart. "I think we need to rally the community. We can't allow fear to dictate our lives, Frank. I'm not just concerned about myself, but for everyone who has felt their sting. I want to organize a community meeting, a chance for everyone to come together, to voice their concerns, and to build a united front against this menace." The idea sparked something in Frank. "That's a bold move, Wilma. I'll help you. We can use the community center for the meeting. I'll spread the word to the Veterans Association and some local organizations. Together, we can make a powerful statement." Gratitude washed over Wilma. "Thank you, Frank. I need your support. This isn't just about me. It's about our community standing strong." With their plans laid, they hung up, momentum bubbling inside Wilma like a pot ready to boil over. She had summoned the spirit of her youth, the courage of her service, and the warmth of friendship. In that moment, she felt empowered, ready to take a stand not just for herself, but for others who shared her fears. As she prepared for bed later that night, thoughts of the meeting churned in her mind. The weather changed outside, dark clouds rolling in, threatening rain. Thunder rumbled softly in the distance, but Wilma felt a sense of calm. The storm mirrored her inner turbulence, yet with every clap of thunder it reminded her of battles fought and won. Anxiety danced at the edges of her excitement, but she pushed it away, determined to keep her eyes on the goal. The next day dawned with a relentless rain. It fell like a curtain across Maplewood, drenching the streets and leaving everything slick and shiny. Wilma saw it as cleansing, washing away the fear that had lingered too long. The sound of rain against the rooftops accompanied her as she busily prepared for the meeting. The community center was a modest building that held countless memories. Town halls, birthday parties, and various gatherings had taken place there, a vessel for togetherness and support. She arrived early, ensuring the space was welcoming, placing chairs in a circle to foster openness, a symbol of unity. As she set up, she decorated the room with flags that reminded everyone of resilience and pride. As she waited for attendees to arrive, she recalled the faces of her friends and comrades, recalling their unwavering support in her darkest hours. She hoped they would see today as a rallying call, a chance to unify against an adversity that felt insurmountable. People began to filter in. First came Frank, with a warm smile that conveyed solidarity. Gradually, others trickled in, a mixture of veterans, concerned parents, and elderly members of the community. The room hummed with murmurs of support and anticipation, a mix of trepidation intertwined with hope. With everyone settled, Wilma took a deep breath, her heart racing but her mind clear. Frank stood beside her, ready to support her as she took the lead. She opened the meeting, her voice resonating with conviction as she spoke of the need for unity, courage, and resilience. "We can't let fear rob us of our dignity in our community. We need to come together and stand up for what's right." The room erupted in agreement, faces strong and determined, anger simmering just beneath the surface. Hearing their shared experiences, the echoes of laughter cut short, the tears shed in silence over bullying laid bare, ignited something profound in all of them. Stories intertwined, creating a rich tapestry of strength and courage as each person shared their fears, each experience further fueling their resolve. Another tunnel. Seeing the community come alive filled Wilma with exhilaration. The meeting transformed into an empowering dialogue, the energy building like the storm outside, unleashing a wave of defiance against the injustices they had faced. Frank and others began to strategize, a plan to take action against the Black Ravens. Wilma felt like a conductor directing a powerful orchestra, her heart swelling with pride as they delegated responsibilities, organized patrol groups, and made plans for outreach to schools. Educating the younger generation about respect and kindness, each action felt monumental, like forging armor against the arrows of ridicule. As the meeting came to a close, the rain outside began to taper off, allowing soft rays of sunlight to pierce through the clouds. A collective surge of camaraderie filled the room, hearts alight with hope. As people started to leave, Hugs were exchanged, laughter echoed, and promises were made to stand unwavering in the face of adversity. Wilma felt invigorated. She had taken the big step needed to reclaim her life. She had shattered the silence that had loomed too long in the shadows, igniting not just her own spirit, but the spirits of the community around her. As she watched the last of them walk out into the glimmering post-rain sunlight, she knew the fight was just beginning. But it was a fight filled with the strength of many, and that knowledge made all the difference. The call she had made, the stand they had taken together, it was just the start of a transformative journey, one that would weave together their lives in ways none of them could have ever anticipated. The sun broke through the clouds the following morning, casting a golden hue over Maplewood, as if the town itself was ready to shine again. Wilma rose with the dawn, her heart still buoyant from the success of the previous evening's meeting. As she prepared breakfast, she listened to the cheerful chirping of the birds outside, sipping her coffee with renewed vigor. Today she would reach out further, connect with others who might not yet realize the strength of unity. The air felt fresh as she stepped outside, the ground glistening from the rain that had washed it clean. Each step felt lighter, a neglected weight lifting from her shoulders as she made her way to the nearby senior center. She envisioned a gathering of faces she hoped to inspire, friends who had once mirrored her own resilience in the face of adversity. Arriving at the center, she was greeted with familiar smiles, a friendly warmth enveloping her as she entered. There was Doris, the sprightly woman with wild silver hair, often seen knitting while sipping herbal tea, and Ted, an old friend with a penchant for storytelling that could rival the greats. Today she aimed not just to speak, but to listen and strengthen their bonds. "Wilma, my dear, what brings you here so early?" Doris called, her voice bright as sunlight. "Good morning, Doris. I'm here to share something important," Wilma replied, her heart pounding with excitement. "It's about that gang causing a ruckus in our town." Lady Sarah didn't answer Doris, instead kept watching the street. Doris's brow furrowed with concern. "Oh, those boys have been troublesome. I heard they made life miserable for poor Mr. Jenkins last week. What can we do?" "What we must do is reach out to those boys," said Pete dourly, "and see what they can do for us." Wilma felt the support of the room enveloping her. "I held a meeting last night at the community center. We discussed forming a united front. I believe together we can confront these bullies. We need your voices as part of this community, and every story counts." The room quieted, eyes widening with interest, some leaning in closer, eager to hear more. As she shared the events of the previous day, her spirited narrative ignited a spark in her friends. "We've been too quiet for too long," Ted murmured, eyes narrowing with determination. "Back in our day, we didn't just sit and watch while trouble brewed, we took action." Empowered by their shared experiences, Wilma encouraged them to share their own stories of resilience and defiance. One by one, voices emerged, recounting personal experiences of bullying and community neglect. Doris spoke of lonely evenings spent worrying about her neighbors, and Ted shared tales of banding together with fellow veterans to protect one another during darker times. Their heartfelt discussions turned into plans of action. They brainstormed ideas for small community outreach initiatives, ways to engage with local youths, and creative ways to share their message, emphasizing the value of respect and kindness. After what felt like a lifetime of nurturing and refreshing conversations, the day came alive with purpose. Wilma felt electrified by the energy of her peers, realizing that she wasn't alone in her fight against the rising tide of disrespect. They made plans to visit schools, integrating stories of their past, reminding the younger generation of the importance of community values, bravery, and standing together. As they stepped out into the afternoon sun, the sky was blue and bright, as if painting all its beauty across Maplewood. The cheerful sounds of children playing filled the air, intertwining with the spirit of their newfound mission. A reminder of what they were fighting for. Doris gripped Wilma's arm firmly. "Let's start with the elementary school down the street. We need to go where we can make the biggest impact." Dorici said. Wilma felt her heart quicken. "Yes, let's show them what real courage looks like." The senior center transformed into a hive of activity. They amassed resources, crafting flyers infused with their messages of respect, while sharing stories from their own lives. Ones that displayed the strength of their generation against the echoes of hatred. As they walked hand in hand to the school, Wilma could feel a warmth radiating from each corner of the town. The sense of community that had been dormant was gradually awakening. The laughter of children greeted them, a sweet melody. As they reached the entrance of the school, a gust of vibrant energy flowed through them, fueling their resolve. "Let's do this together," Ted encouraged, echoing Wilma's sentiment. Feeling invigorated, they approached the school, ready to tell their stories and offer a helping hand. Yet, as they crossed the threshold, a shadow loomed, and as they glanced upward, there they were. The Black Ravens, gathered in front of the school, laughing with an air of arrogance as they leaned against the railing. Wilma's heart sank, but she felt a surge of determination course through her. This meeting was crucial, a chance to confront the very sources of animosity, to share their stories directly with the youth and plant seeds of change amidst the chaotic laughter. 40 days of just and drinks of life. "Remember what we talked about," Wilma murmured to her friends beside her. "This isn't just for us. It's for everyone who feels alone." With a deep breath, they stepped forward together, hearts united against the tide of disrespect and mockery that had threatened their lives. As Wilma looked at her friends and the children around them, she realized they were not there solely to oppose the gang. They were here to uplift, to share wealth, and to bring light where darkness threatened to linger. Facing the shadows head-on, infused with a fighting spirit, she stepped closer, ready to stand up for not only her own principles, but for every voice that had been choked beneath the weight of silence. Here, in front of these children and their peers, she refused to back down. This was where the fight truly began. The air trembled with potential as Wilma and her friends moved toward the steps, determined not to let anything, particularly fear, hold them back any longer. It was time to show Maplewood what resilience truly looked like. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment telling us about your own story and how you would have overcome the challenges Wilma faced. Take care and stay safe.